After witnessing Gear 5's upper limits in Egghead and seeing him attempt to run a gauntlet on the Gorosei, today I will be seeing if he could run a different type of gauntlet. Specifically, his entire crew and the closest thing he's had to a family since his pirate journey. I thought it would be cool to not only emphasize how much of a monster Gear 5 Luffy would be, but also talk about just how strong the other Straw Hats are. As similar to Luffy himself, they've gotten insane power creeps to this day that people aren't aware of. Before getting into the actual versus battle itself, I'm just going to let you know the only way this fight is fair is if all the Straw Hats are going to jump him. So I'm not even going to bother doing a round 1 Luffy versus Usopp, round 2 Luffy versus Brook. Like, obviously if we did the video in that type of style, then Luffy would just solo the Straw Hats. The point of this video is to show not only how strong Luffy is, but also how powerful the Straw Hats have become, as this is at least a discussion to be had. Starting off with the weakest bunch of the Straw Hats, we have Usopp, Nami, and Brook, who, despite being the Straw Hats with the worst feats, they are still pretty powerful. Brook was able to tag and blitz Big Mom, while both Usopp and Nami combat Page One and Ulti, two opponents who have survived hits from Big Mom herself. Although they're not obviously going to be hurting any Yonko level threats, we do see them at least pressing threats that Wano Luffy isn't no diffing. Ulti, who is the weakest Tobi Roppo by far besides Page One, was forcing Luffy to rely on Gear 4 even after his Udon Training. And this is the same character that Nami could damage without Zeus, by the way. Usopp is able to damage Page One, who, like I said, besides Ulti, is probably the weakest Tobi Roppo, but even then he was still able to survive a onslaught from Raid Suit Sanji, the same guy who could parry a hit from King. Again, I'm not saying Luffy's going to be using his higher level gears to knock out Nami or Usopp, but to say he's just blinking them away would be silly. In the next tier, we have Robin, Jimbe, and Chopper, who have very weird feats throughout the series. Robin and Jimbe mainly just beat up stronger Tobi Roppos, but Chopper strangely has some very impressive showings, with him being able to draw blood from Queen and blocking attacks from characters like Big Mom and Saturn. Jimbe in Egghead as well is also kind of performing as an all-star support, being able to knock out Lucci out of his transformation and help Zoro clash with the Gorosei. I don't think they'd press Luffy into using advanced Haki or anything, but more than likely they are going to force him into using his stronger gears at least. Now in the next tier, we have two Straw Hats who, in my opinion, have had the biggest glow-ups on Egghead, that being Frankie and Sanji. Frankie not only was established already to be a beast, having armor that can withstand attacks from Big Mom, but in Egghead we see him intercepting two Gorosei along with damaging Saturn and withstanding Kizaru's kicks. Sanji performed very similarly, along with not really getting damaged by the Seraphim, meaning he should probably be a good bit above the previous characters that we just mentioned. Now unfortunately these two are not going to be forcing Luffy to use Gear 5, but with the likes of Frankie's durability and versatility combined with Sanji's speed and flames, this duo actually looks to be a threat for Luffy. Now, so far, this doesn't look too good for the Straw Hats, but it's because I saved their ace in the hole for last to speak about, that being Roanoa Zoro. You see, not only did Zoro perform the best on Rooftop, meaning yes, he would be stronger than the initial Luffy that fought Kaido, but both characters achieved similar things, that being advanced Haki. The difference though is that Luffy got way stronger and was adapting since the fight with Kaido, whereas Zoro on the other hand survived a combo attack from Kaido and Big Mom that should have killed him, mustered up enough strength to not only clash but outpace Kaido, recover some stamina before then fighting and one-shotting Kaido's right-hand man as soon as he taps into advanced Haki. And that's pretty much all we see, so technically we never actually get to see a prime Zoro with King of Hell. And we actually got a magazine statement confirming that this is not only Zoro's pinnacle, but is a move that has unparalleled power. Mind you, by this point we've already seen Yamato and Luffy wombo comboing Kaido, so you could make the case that Luffy probably needs Gear 5 to actually put Zoro fully down. If Zoro is not leading the charge against Luffy, the Straw Hats are cooked, as you could tell. Anyway, with that aside, let's talk about what this current version of Luffy is capable of and if he can pull off the squad wipe. Now, Luffy currently is capable of turning Gear 5 on and off with relative ease, making it super easy to tap into his full power. And we see that he isn't afraid to rely on this form as seen in Egghead, and in Wano we do see that the stamina drain is pretty bad, but in Egghead it seems that he has not necessarily better stamina, but I guess he's just more used to the power. After awakening his Devil Fruit, Luffy now has access to low tier Toon Force, which allows him to turn the ground into rubber, make your eyes pop out of your socket, and use you like a jump rope like a Looney Tunes character. This is definitely Gear 5's deadliest ability, as without Haki it really can't be dealt with. Along with this, Luffy can regenerate from damage he's receiving due to Gear 5 having a healing factor, And on top of all of this, Luffy is one of the very few individuals who has mastered every version of Haki a person can get. He mastered the ability to see into the future against Katakuri, he learned to pierce through durability during his Udon training, and he tapped into the ability only the strong have access to in his fight with Kaido. Luffy, even despite just barely beating Kaido on his own, rose to a level beyond his own imagination and is someone who can truly be called an Emperor of the Sea. However, the question still stands, can the new Emperor defeat the group that helped him reach this point? Let's discuss the scenario. Now, to paint a better picture, imagine Luffy pretty much on the sunny waking up one day and out of nowhere he just sees the 9 Straw Hats lined up with every single one of them in their respective full powered states. Usopp and Nami have green stars and Zeus ready, Chopper and Frankie are in their Kaiju / Mechazord state, Sanji has the blue flames out, and Zoro has the King of Hell aura surrounding his blades. You get the idea. Luffy would be confused, but thinking about how all the Straw Hats are all wanting to fight him right now keeps him less interested in why they're attacking him and more interested in that if he can take on his own crew. Luffy would tap into Snake Man similarly to how he approached Kizaru, showing them that he's not playing around, and he'd charge headfirst at the crew. With the picture painted now in your head, let's talk about who would actually win the scenario. Now, Luffy starting off the fight in a powerful form right off the bat would allow him to make quick work of the likes of Usopp, Nami, Brook, and Robin, and potentially even Jimbe. Due to Chopper's feat on Queen and Frankie's performance in Egghead, I'd say these two plus Sanji locking in would probably force Luffy to actually using advanced types of Haki. And I do believe Luffy is going to have to do this anyway if he wants to like fully pierce Frankie's armor, because Frankie is just a monster when it comes to durability. It's also going to be hard for Luffy to really pinpoint focus on characters like Frankie and Chopper, two very big fighters, with someone like Sanji constantly zipping around and striking him, with someone like Zoro probably tagging along. And if this is how the Straw Hats approach Luffy, with the stronger members kind of ganging up on him similar to how the Guardians of the Globe approached Omni-Man, then I do believe Luffy's going to have no other choice but to tap into Gear 5. It's just kind of game over, guys, I'm not gonna lie. The main problem is Luffy's Devil Fruit ability, which no one on the crew would really have the Haki to fully get around the abilities. Meaning he could just turn the entire ship into rubber, the members around him would probably just have their eyes popping out of their sockets, he can use Zoro's swords as jump ropes, and any of the damage he suffered before going into Gear 5 would be mostly recovered. If you want to really push that Zoro scaling to Kaido, well, what's gonna happen when Luffy just uses that full powered punch he used to destroy Onigashima? And if you really want to grandstand the Zoro Kaido scaling and saying that Zoro should be superior to Gear 4, alright, very valid argument. What's gonna happen when Luffy throws an island-sized punch with advanced conquerors behind it? Now, I do think the fight under normal circumstances is pretty close, because I don't think Luffy would just rely on his full power right off the bat, but eventually it's gonna come down to that, and the moment he goes into Gear 5 and starts using advanced Haki with it, it's just kind of game over, man. Even base Gear 5 was doing stuff to Kaido that Zoro probably would never be able to perform. Let alone the Luffy who fucking throws an island-sized punch at him. Like, come on, bro. Now, it could be a close match depending on how nice you are to Zoro and how mean you are to Luffy, but 9 to probably 10 out of 10 times, Luffy is defeating the Straw Hats by himself.